in the impeachment trial. Let's break down some of this with a former professor, one of actually Donald Trump's, he was one
former
of his attorneys in the first impeachment. We now have the second impeachment going here. Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus of Harvard Law and author of the book Guilt by Accusation. Thank you, Alan. What's your take today on what you're observing?
Today was the best day for former President Trump. The Democrats are playing right into the hands of the argument that Trump is going to be making about the First Amendment. Everything they're arguing supports the First Amendment argument. They're saying that this was all part of an effort to protest the election, to say it was stolen, to say it was a fraud. Remember two things about the First Amendment. It doesn't distinguish truth from falsity. A lie is as protected as the truth. Somebody can say the earth is flat, and that's as protected as the earth is round. Somebody can say the Holocaust didn't occur, and that's as protected as 6 million died in the Holocaust. The same thing is true here. Saying that the election was stolen is completely protected, even if it's false. Number two, it's an opinion, and opinions are completely protected. They are playing into the hands. They're making this seem like it was part and parcel of a political argument that began months earlier, that the president has taken a consistent view. The election was stolen. The election was fraudulent. He's entitled to say that under the First Amendment. I hope his lawyers are up to making the rebuttal, because everything we've heard today helps Donald Trump's case.
Yeah. Professor, they're trying to say also that the words had specific meaning to that crowd, and that the former president should have understood, or did understand, that they would have a specific meaning to that crowd and others that he'd addressed, and that his goal was specifically to incite the riot as a result of that. How is there any type of legal standing at all where someone can determine what someone else was thinking?
Well, they're arguing that these are code words. It's total nonsense, because the president spoke to thousands of people. Most of them didn't even go to the Capitol. Right. The ones that went to the Capitol, most of them didn't go into the Capitol. The ones that went into the Capitol, most of them didn't commit crimes of violence or crimes of property destruction. So the president made a speech. People took actions. Under our Constitution, you punish the actors, not the speaker. And you can argue that the president's speech was an incitement. That's not what the Democrats are arguing. The Democrats are now arguing that this was a long pattern of lies right from the beginning, from day one of the election. All of that helps the president's case, that this was all part of a political effort to reverse the election. Look, I don't believe the election was false. I don't believe that the election was fraudulent. I don't believe the election was stolen. That's my opinion. Trump has the right to his opinion. The Constitution protects his right to his opinion as much as it protects mine, even if I'm being truthful and he's not. The Constitution doesn't distinguish between truths and falsehoods under the First Amendment. That's the fundamental flaw of the Democrat case. I think the Democrats know what they're doing. Jamie Raskin taught constitutional law. He understands the same principles I am. This is a political effort to try to persuade the American public that Donald Trump's a bad guy, but they're not making their case for impeachment. They're not making their case for incitement. They're not making their case that this is an impeachable offense.
Now, we have seen things in the news recently, quotes by people who participated in the attack on the Capitol, saying they were listening to President Trump. Right. That they were listening to what he had. Like they stood down when he said, time to go home. Give me your assessment of how that plays into the argument that the Democrats are making, that these people were incited by the president, and they're trying to make that argument. Yeah, see what they did? They did what he said to do. They were listening to him.
Well, some did and some didn't. When you shout fire in a crowded theater, everyone listens. They immediately run out. Here, some listened, some didn't, some went home, some didn't. No, you can't really make that argument. The other argument the Democrats make, and they're misleading the public, they say he's our commander-in-chief. He's the commander-in-chief. Let me be very clear as a constitutional scholar. The president is not the commander-in-chief. He is not your commander-in-chief. He is not my commander-in-chief. If the president tells me to do something, I can say, buzz off. I'm not listening to you. He is only the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And whenever I hear that the president's our commander-in-chief, I say that's a totalitarian concept. We don't have a commander-in-chief. We have an elected president who we can ignore. He has no right to tell us what to do. Nobody has to listen to him. Only members of the armed forces have to listen to him. And if I hear one more Democrat say he's the commander-in-chief, that's a totalitarian. Don't have a commander-in-chief. The Army does, period.
Professor Dershowitz, I'll be sure not to do that as a result. I want to go back to some of the election fraud issues that have clearly been brought up by the Democrat impeachment managers today. Because we've been told, and if you look through this trial memorandum, the former president's attorneys did not intend to bring that up. Do you think they should? And is this possibly a trap that would cause them to?
It is an attempt to spring a trap, and the Trump people should not fall for the trap because they'll lose senators if they do. They should say, and they'd be 100% right, it doesn't matter under the First Amendment whether the president was right or wrong. He has the right to be wrong. We are not going to argue whether the election was stolen, whether it was fraudulent. That was his opinion. He's entitled to express that opinion. We may or may not share that opinion. I personally don't share that opinion. That doesn't diminish his First Amendment right. They should not fall into that trap. They should not defend the president's statements for its truthfulness. That would fall completely into the trap set by the Democrats.
All right, Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for talking to us, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.